But let me now bring in Basset Buyuka, who is a man who doesn't need introductions really. He's been at the nuclear board as well as just in the journalistic profession. Perhaps, Basset, before we go nuclear, just what's your reaction to what happened to our colleague Joy Doreen Bira, who was arrested in Uganda?
I'll tell you what, Abby, that's absolutely revolting. I think the treatment I've seen Joy Doreen receive does not leave alone a journalist. It wasn't good, dehumanizing, and looking at the whole set of circumstances around that incident and its aftermath, it is just absolutely appalling. That's what I can describe it as, and it's a step back in terms of journalistic freedom, and it's not right. It's got to be condemned, and it cannot be entertained in a civilized society.
Well, thanks a lot, Basset, for that. And let's now talk matters nuclear, really. When you see a country that is trying to become competitive, Kenya, we are saying you want to be trading on the global stage. We have other economies just trying to put their act together as well as we are doing. We've seen South Africa, they have nuclear power. There's talk that Egypt is also at an advanced stage. And I mean, nuclear energy seems to be a key aspect for discussion among Africa right now. From where you sit, how can Kenya also join the bandwagon despite the fears and the persuasions that have been there around nuclear energy?
I'll tell you what, Abi. The reason nuclear energy is being debated and being discussed and being considered by many countries, both around the African continent and beyond, is because it offers a very suitable, affordable, and sustainable source of energy. It is, in fact, alongside geothermal, nuclear and possibly coal are the least, in terms of cost, in terms of electricity generation. Number two, it is very suitable for industry because it is stable. It's what they call a base load. It can be used throughout the day, 24/7, and nuclear power plant needs refueling after 2 years. So for 2 years, really, you get stable electricity supply, predictability as well.
So where are we as a country when it comes to the progress we've made around coming up with a nuclear plant? Of course, there's talk we are likely to have a plant in the next 16 years. That should be by 2027. Is it another white elephant?
No color of elephant, absolutely. Abi, this is a real deal. The government, conceived this in the year 2010. The then National Economic and Social Council came up with a proposal. Ministry of Energy took it up. Nuclear Electricity Project Committee formed in 2011. 2012, Kenya Nuclear Electricity Board formed. And they've taken a lot of steps towards ensuring that Kenya is ready to have nuclear power in its electricity mix by the year 2027. Now, what have they done? For instance, the Kenya Nuclear Electricity Board has been very busy in terms of building capacity, training. In Korea, the KEPCO International Nuclear Graduate School, one of the best in the world, we have had about 16 Kenyans who've undergone Masters in Nuclear Power Engineering, a very unique course, a very empowering course, and that's very good for Kenya. And another intake is ongoing at the moment, and the new students will report in February. So another 6 or so Kenyans will be joining the program. We have memorandums of understanding and partnership with Russia, with Korea itself, with China, and Slovakia as well. Now, what does this do? This enables Kenya have technology transfer. It enables Kenya be able to get the best out of those who've been there, done it. We have also a partnership, of course, with Texas A&M University in the United States. There are also Kenyan students there, and they're taking courses at high levels. What else has been done? A pre-feasibility study was done and completed. There is siting studies which are ongoing to identify suitable locations for nuclear power plants in Kenya. Just a hint, it's normally, if you look at the worldwide trend, 30 countries around the world currently have nuclear power plants. And nuclear power plants are normally located near large water bodies. Why? Because nuclear power plants need water for cooling. So if you look at Kenya, the water masses in Kenya, the Indian Ocean, River Tana, Lake Turkana, Lake Victoria, all of them are potential to be sites for nuclear power plants. What else has been done? Legal and legislative framework, we're currently developing that because it's very important to have a regulatory framework. So you need a regulator for nuclear power. You say some of the fears people have is about safety. Part of the job that a regulator does is to ensure that the highest levels of safety are attained.
Sorry to jump in, Basset. Safety is really the big deal. If you talk to the many Kenyans we've been able to reach out to, now that you're in Mombasa, one of the people just asked me, Abi, I understand the plant might be located in Mombasa. There's a lot of fear around this phenomenon called nuclear power.
There should be no fear. There should be anticipation because, as I said, 30 countries have successfully done it. And
Some are pulling out.
actually, no country has pulled out, Abby. No country has pulled out of nuclear. In fact, just yesterday, Switzerland had a referendum and they resoundingly voted to stay nuclear, and actually they're considering expanding. China, India, Russia are having a lot of new builds. The United Arab Emirates is the most famous recent newcomer country, and they're doing very well with their new build. Here in Africa, Egypt is quite advanced with its preparations. We got countries like Morocco, Nigeria, Ghana, and of course Kenya. South Africa is going to build another 9,000 megawatts worth of nuclear electricity power plants by the year 2030. So Africa is firmly on this map for nuclear power generation. There should be no dispel the myths and fears about safety, because the plants now, in fact, Fukushima taught the world a lot, and Fukushima was a tsunami. And you know how that went, and it's a tsunami that led to the eventual situation at the power plant. But by and large, nuclear power has been used very effectively, and it accounts actually for almost 14% of electricity generation worldwide.
And when I said some countries are pulling out, is the fact that some countries have actually shut some of their plants. That's what I really meant. And it's considered as a stable source of power if you look at the bigger picture. But there's also the elephant in the room, which is the funding aspect. It takes you about 5 years to put up a plant, and it's in the billions of shillings. How is Kenya looking towards financing in the eventuality this goes through?
Abi, you're right. It is a big investment for a country to make, but it also has a big dividend for a country. Rough estimates for 1,000 megawatts nuclear power plant based on recent builds is in the region of $5 billion US dollars. So that would be around about maybe 500 billion Kenyan shillings. And you say, how do you finance this? There are many models, and Kenya needs to settle for one. One of those being increasingly used nowadays is government-to-government partnership, where government offers guarantees and then you get a build from the country you have a partnership with, and then the operator comes and recoups the cost during the course of operating the plant. Okay, that's one viable option that can be considered, and so there are models which are available in terms of financing a nuclear power plant construction. Now, the bigger issue then would be with an investment of 500 billion. What do we get out of it? You get stable power. It is affordable, it is cheap. It fits in very well with Kenya's long-term strategy, the Vision 2030. 4,000 megawatts by about 2033. 2027 we have 1,000 megawatts of nuclear electricity, all things being equal. And this would be very good in conducing to Kenya's development. I must emphasize, nuclear electricity will be part of the energy mix. Okay? So geothermal is very important in that. Our hydro potential is almost exhausted, but it's also still used. We got some wind projects going on, especially the one in Basset. And then, of course, there is coal, and it's important that all this are harnessed and the country gets as much energy as it can. I'll just give you one allusion. South Africa, down south, they have about 45,000 megawatts of electricity.
Wow.
They're still looking to have 9,000 megawatts from nuclear power by the year 2030.
Of course, they have a lot of mines as well.
Yeah, they've got a lot of mines, they use a lot of coal, but nuclear, they see, is also going to be important. When you go up north to Egypt, as I say, they are quite advanced. Egypt already has 32,000 megawatts of power. But they're still looking to expand to have nuclear in their mix. If you go to the west of the continent, Nigeria and Ghana, very advanced. Morocco is quite advanced. And Kenya is not too far behind those countries I've mentioned in that endeavor. So I think it's something that will benefit the country. It's something that is important. Safety is critical. It must be considered. It's among the issues that are being very carefully analyzed and being put in the framework. But also, you have to look at the benefits. You have to look at possible locations. You have to ensure that the appropriate legal framework is there. You have to ensure that stakeholders and the public are informed about what processes are ongoing so that they're fully clued in. And we also have to ensure that we build the capacity, human and institutional. And that's what the training is all about. And the institutional capacity also must be built. And that is a process that is ongoing.
And lastly, Basset, of course, a lot of Kenyans already understand why we need more power in our energy mix. And we understand that the International Atomic Energy Agency really has been midwifing this process, if you would say so. Perhaps what's the next step in our nuclear power plant?
Yes,
Abby. Keep it short.
Yes, I'll keep it absolutely short and sweet. Okay, we have done an integrated nuclear infrastructure review. The IEA team was here late last year, and they did a review of Kenya's program.
Yes,
and what that means now, we are able to set the pace for the next stage. What are we going to do in the next stage is find a site, identify now, come down to candidate sites. That we need to do.
Okay.
We need to ensure the legal and regulatory framework is in place. We continue with the stakeholder, sensitization and information and communication and consultation.
Right.
That includes the policymakers. What else will we do? We have to ensure that more Kenyans get trained. We have to ensure that capacity grows and that many Kenyans are available. Our nuclear power plant has so many jobs.
All right.
And during both construction and during the running, during its operation.
All
so
right.
that's all very important. And Abby, one last thing I'll say is energy is a very serious enabler for development. And if you look at countries like Korea, Korea grew on nuclear power.
That's true.
And they've become a superpower in terms of economy now. And some time back at independence, you hear the allusion between Kenya and Korea, and we gave Korea a loan and all that kind of thing. But now look at Korea. Nuclear power has done for them wonders. And I think we should aspire to be at the cutting edge, to be among the African countries that will be able to move forward, move to the next stage, and actually become a newly industrialized country. It's some way off as a country, but I think we need to make some steps towards that. And I think having nuclear power in our energy mix is one of the steps that we need to take towards that.
Fantastic. Perfect place to end that conversation. We were speaking there to Basset Buyuka, who is the publicity director for the Kenya Nuclear Electricity Board, just shedding some light into this complex issue around Kenya taking up nuclear electricity as part of its energy mix. Kenya is actually looking forward to having about 4,000 megawatts by 2027. Will they achieve it or not? This is just but a question of time. Well, we now want to wrap it up here from Mombasa County, but we have our very own Yvonne Okwara standing by at our news center. Perhaps, Yvonne, what do you have lined up for us on Worldview?
Well, Abby, we're keeping our eye on the top story on KTN News today, which is the arrest of KTN journalist Joy Doreen Bira in the clashes in Kasese. We understand she's been given bond, but it is not clear whether she has left the police station in Kasese, so we'll be keeping our eye on that. That's our top story. And of course, the hashtag remains Free Joy Doreen on social media until we get her out. She and of course her other colleagues, including her fiancé, who were held there last night at about 7 p.m, picked up by them. But we'll also be taking a look at what's happening in South Africa. Could this be it for Jacob Zuma? We'll be analyzing that vote of no confidence by the ANC itself. So lots to talk about there, Abby.
Well, many thanks there, Yvonne. Of course, we do continue to follow up on that particular story around Joy Doreen, and we hope all will end well. Well, coming to you from Mombasa County, it's been a pleasure. Tomorrow we'll still be coming to you live from Mombasa County, just talking about still matters with nuclear energy as well as domestic tourism. Lots of Nairobians and East Africans are making their way to Mombasa. We'll be having that conversation tomorrow. On behalf of the entire KTN Business Today team, thank you for watching, and let's link up tomorrow. God bless. Take care.